Hi guys, welcome to this tutorial. This is Eric Daka, and today I just wanted to show you how I light up my Blender scene using Eevee. I will walk you through my whole entire workflow from lighting to rendering. I won't discuss much on the texturing part. So this is my bot that I just did a few days ago, completed just a few days ago. Yeah, and I did some few renders in Eevee. Let me just bring up PureRef. Okay, so these are some of the renders that I did. As you can see, they were all made through Eevee, and the lighting looks pretty good. Yeah, so I will try to recreate a similar lighting setup that I used in these renders, and we'll see what we can do about it. So let's get down to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn on my screencast keys so that you can be able to see what I'll be doing. Do I have it? Okay, it's working. So let me just close this bar and I'll push this a little bit. All right, so let's see if our Eevee setup is already on, and then I have turned on my ambient occlusion. I've also turned on my bloom. I've also turned on my screen space reflections. Yeah, I think that should be it for now. And then for the output, final output, I'm going to use 512 samples, and then for the viewport I will just be using the default 64. So let's go back to our viewport and let's go to our render mode. Okay, so I've already textured this board, as you can see. So the light's already interacting with the scene, so I've put some emissive red material on the eyes and the forehead and just below. Then I've just created these blue emission lights as to give it that sci-fi look. So on, yeah. Then I've put some green on the weapons just to show that the robot is I mean the weapons are active. Yeah. All right. So to get started, I'll bring in my area light. Bring in my area light with Shift A. Bring in my area light. Okay, it's down there, so just bring it to the top along the Z axis. Then I'm going to scale it. Just scale it like something like so. Okay, then I will lift it up a bit from where it is. Lift it up to somewhere there, so. And then we can go to our properties panel and we can crank up our power to about, let's put 1000. See what happens. Power it on 1000. There's no much lighting. Let's try to bring it down. Let's see what happens when we try to bring it down. Okay, so our light is facing in the other direction. We need to rotate it to face the negative of the Z axis. So we're going to do rotate in the Z axis, and then we're going to do a negative 180. Let's see, is that working? Still not working. Okay, I see what's wrong. So as you can see, we are doing our rotation in the local axis. We need to go to our global axis so that we can rotate it from there. Okay, so we'll just hit R for rotate in the Z axis, and then that will be negative 180. Still giving me the same. Let me just try to rotate it. Why is it not giving me the right? Let me see. let's go to our tools, blah blah blah. Let's put a 0 there, and I think what we can do is Control A just to let's apply transforms to everything. Lights, light has been scaled, light area. Okay, so what can we do? Let's try to rotate these, not on the x-axis. Sorry, that was my bad. It wasn't supposed to be on the z-axis. I think this should be the x-axis. So let's just click on it one more time, and yeah, it was on the x-axis. It was my bad. Yeah. So let's turn this to -180 degrees, and then we can close this panel. Yeah, so we have our first light in the scene. Let us grab it and push it up to somewhere there. So we have what our first light in the scene. I think what I can do is turn off my volumetrics. I had set up some volumetrics just to give some fog kind of thing. So let me just I think I have my volumetrics somewhere. Let me just close these cutters. I think, yeah, it's here. Yeah, okay. So we now have our scene, we have our board there, we've got our light, our reflections taking place, and so on. All right, so what we can do is as you know, Eevee is a real-time render, so meaning that the only things that we are going to be able to see, let me just bring it on my pen. Okay, so the only things that we are going to be able to see clearly are the ones that are being from where the light is coming from. Okay, so this part will be able to see this part much clearer and much visible because of the lighting, and we can see some huge darkness from this area. You can see much of the details except these emissive parts. Okay, so let me just clear up my screen. Okay, so what we can do is this. We're going to bring in our lights. Let me go to my solid mode. I think I'm go to my solid mode. So what we're going to do is create more like a studio lighting scene where we have lights in this direction, lights in that direction, lights from the back, and lights there. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate this with Shift D, and I'll move it on the x-axis somewhere like so. So this is just a cylinder, and I've just extruded the polygons outwards, and then it has created this kind of effect. Okay, just to create our environment scene. Okay, so let me rotate our lighting along the x-axis. I think should be somewhere there. That should be okay. Let's put in 90 degrees. No, let's put -90 degrees. Then we can bring it down with G and Z to somewhere there. Then we can also grab the same duplicate the same light along the y-axis. We'll move it to the back like so, and we can rotate it on the z-axis. I think that should be about 180 degrees. Okay, then we can duplicate the same lighting again, move it along the y, move it along the x to somewhere there. Then we can rotate it on the z-axis to about -90 degrees. Okay, so already we have 3 lights. Let me just rotate this one. It should be rotate z. I think should be 90. Let's put 90. No, let's put 180. 180. Yeah, that should be okay. Yeah. So let's go to our rendered mode. Okay, we have our lights. As you can see, we have got so much light, and we can see almost pretty much almost everything we've seen. Yeah, almost everything is seen. As you can see, we got some good lighting maybe. So I think we can create one more light on this side to create lighting from that direction. Yeah, so just go back to my solid view mode, then I'll duplicate this lighting, shift D, then I'll move it along the x-axis, then I will rotate it on my x-axis. What's going on? I'll rotate it along the along the z-axis, I mean. Then it should be negative 180 degrees. Then I'll grab it and move it a bit. Okay, all right, so let's go back to rendered view mode, and yeah, we have pretty much our lights that we need to light up our bot. Okay, so just to make our scene look more like cycles, we can introduce some light probes. Okay, so right now we can see that we are experiencing some overexposure. This is because all the lights are having the same kind of power. Okay, but if you do a light study, okay, a light study, let me just bring up my pen. Yeah, studio lighting setup. So in a studio lighting setup, we have got a key light, which is more like your primary lighting. Let me just do it. I'll go to my top view mode. Yeah, just bring this to somewhere here. Yeah, somewhere here. So in a studio lighting setup, if let's say you have if we are looking at it from the top view, if this is your object, you will have more like a key light, going to have a key light which will fire in light from the direction which is close to like 45 degrees angle. Okay, then on the other opposite angle we can have what we call a field light, okay, and this light should have a less power. Okay, it should have a less power, I mean it should have a less power than the key light, because we want our key light to be more like the overall light for our scene. Okay, so we can also have some rear lights coming from the back just to create the highlights around the scene. Okay, so this is the same kind of setup that we're going to use, but we are just using a number of lights, more lights, just to give it more lighting, the scene. Yeah, so let's go back to our scene. Okay, let's go back to our scene. All right, so we have those lights, we go to the side. So I'm just going to try to scale this a bit. I think you can click on all of them, you can highlight almost all of them in this one, then I can try to like scale. Okay, let me just scale them independently. I think that should be better. I think, okay, so just to rotate. Okay, just scale this in, hit that one, scale it in, hit that one, scale it in, and even this one, scale it in, like so. So we're just going to move this light a little bit on my it's this one. I'm going to move it a little bit on my X to somewhere like so. Then I'm going to rotate it a little bit to somewhere like there. Yeah, then I'll bring it down in the Z axis to somewhere like so. Okay, just to get that feel. Then I'll bring this light, this one, and I'll move it along my Y axis. I'll bring it down a little bit, then I'm going to rotate it on the Z as well to somewhere like so. Okay, yeah, then I can just do the same with that one. This one I don't think it's much of a problem because it's just acting as it's just a fill light as well. So even the one at the back, that should be just okay. I think it should be just okay. But what I can do is, since we had used a power of 1000, let me go back to our rendered view mode. Remember we had our face light as at the power of 1000. Let's go back to our properties here where the power of 1000. I think these other lightings, then we can give them a power of like half of that. Let's give them like this, give it about 500. Let's give this one also about 500. Even the one at the back, let's give it about 500. Okay, then we can also reduce this one to about maybe, let's say 750. Let's say, yeah, something like so, something like that. That should be okay. Yeah. Okay, so another thing that we can do when you're rendering with Eevee, as we know, there is no global illumination by default in the actual in the original Blender release. Okay, unless you were to go to the Blender market and community, you would find a Blender version that has got what we call the screen space global illumination add-on plugged in within the Blender software. And what it does is it brings in it introduces global illumination to Eevee, and it lights up your scene much better than the default Eevee. You can also get screen space global illumination add-on on Gumroad for free. I will put the link in the description, and you can be able to download it and be able to use it. I think in Blender should be up to about 0.93 and below. I think, yeah. I think even 0.3 should work in 0.3 in 3. I mean, yeah. All right. So what we can do to make our lighting look much more better, we'll have some more light bouncing around our scene. We can introduce some light probes. So shift A, and we can introduce our irradiance volume. Okay, so this is what I use to enable us to have some more light bouncing around the scene. So what we can do is just put our board in within this light scene. So I'll go to my wireframe mode, then I'll just try to align it in the best way possible. So you can just watch me do it. I'll just align it, move it about. Yeah, I think that should be. I think it's even too big, but I think it's okay. I think it's okay because we're not going to render everything out, and we won't even see much of the environment because of the fog and like. Yeah. Okay, so what we can do after putting in the irradiance volume, the first thing that we need to do is go to our Eevee settings, and then we go to indirect lighting. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to bake our lighting. Okay, so by default Blender has got about 3. I'm sure if you check your what's this, if you check your Blender, by default you have got about 3 light bounces. Okay, so you have to increase this to about 4 and over. So if you look at, if I was to turn this, okay, if I was to turn this to cycles, yeah, if I was turn this to cycles, and then we go to our light paths, yeah, okay, I changed everything, but by default cycles has got about 4 light bounces. Okay, yeah, so let me go back to my Eevee. All right, so I'm going to have about I'll use 5 for me. Then we also want to crank up our resolution. Okay, also want to crank up our resolution. I think by default, if you go to the irradiance volume properties here, you can see that our resolution has got about 444. So that these numbers simply represent this number of dots that we have in our scene. So the more dots that we have, the more our scene is going to be lit, and the more dots that we have, the more time it will take for us to bake this lighting. Okay, so for me, I think I'll just crank up my X particles to 6, even my Y particles to 6, and my Z particles to 6, to something like that. Okay, then I'll go back to my settings, and then I will bake my indirect light. So as you can see down here, it's saying baking indirect baking lighting, and it's moving. As you can see some flickering around the robot. Yeah, something like that is going on. Yeah, so you just have to wait. Yeah. So what's happening is that within this space where the irradiance volume is, what Blender is doing is it's trying to make some bounces from the light that is hitting the robot to these act more like walls. Okay, they act more like walls. So whatsoever is outside these boundaries is not being affected by this irradiance probe, so there is no artificial bounces that are taking place. Okay, it's in there. So all these bounces, light bounces, will be taking in place within this box, and we can have some good lighting. As you can see, we're having some interesting lighting. You can see some scratches there. Yeah, it's being lit pretty much well. I think what I can do is turn off my bloom for now. Yeah, I can turn off my bloom, and yeah, you can see it looks much better. I think it's done. It's done already. It's done, and yeah, this is it looks better. Looks so much better. Looks so much better. I think what I can do is let me try to move. Where's that light? Let me go back to my solid view mode. Is this one? Let me just try to move it a little bit at the back. Let me try to move it a little bit to somewhere like so. Let me go back. Yeah, it was creating a lot of lighting. Yeah, okay, that should be okay. That should be all right. Yeah, so one other thing that we can do is we can also introduce another light probe, which is the, go to shift A, which is the reflection cube map. Okay, so the reflection cube map, what it does, it just helps to enhance our reflections around our robot. Okay, so if we get to our settings, by default it's set to spherical. So if I was to bring this up, you see it's more like a sphere. It's with a spherical shape. So I would like to turn it into a box. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, So what I can do is just scale it up a bit, like so. Then I can bring it up to somewhere there. Then I can also push it on the y-axis, move it along the y-axis to somewhere there. Yeah, I think there's no much that I need to mess up with this one. I just have to go back to my render settings and also bake the reflections there. Yeah, it's baking the reflections. It's baking the reflections. As you can see, we can see some reflections are taking place. Okay, making some reflections. Okay, so this is how I create my scene. Yeah, so from this point I think that should be pretty much it. Yeah, it should be pretty much it with the settings. I think the other thing that we can do is just introduce this kind of lights. Okay, this epic lighting that I used here. As you can see, this is some orange, there's some green, there's some blue somewhere there. So we can just add this light light colors. Okay, just add them in, and we can render our scene. Okay, let me just scale this. How do I scale it? Just scale it in later. Right. Okay. I think let me reduce the brightness to this one, but 500 should be okay. 500. It's facing the other side. Let's rotate it. Rotate along the x-axis. And there's 180. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think that should be okay. So what we can do is what is my lighting? I think should be this one. What we can do is we can change this to a little bluish. Let's try to do a little bluish color. Okay, as you can see, we got some bluish color. Then we have, let's go to our look dev mode. I think for this, yeah, you can see our lighting's much better. Okay, so for this one, let's take it to a bit of orangish kind of color. Then the back one, where's the back one? This one. We can turn this one to something like green. Yeah, let's put it in pure green, something like that. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to our Eevee mode. Back to Eevee mode. Yeah, and yeah. So you see what's happening. We have got this kind of cool lighting. We don't have fully pure white lighting. So the white is on this direction. Okay. Yeah. So what I did was just add in some volumetrics, but I won't go into detail about volumetrics in this tutorial. Yeah. So what I did was just add in some volumetrics. Let me bring up my cube. Yeah, and created this fog, which caused the light to diffuse a little, and as a result, we have got this dark scene. We can't see our background. Yeah. So if I was to go to my camera view mode, using where I have this render. Okay, so I'm just going to fire up my top lighting a little bit. Let's put 750 was just okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is how I built this kind of renders. I built this kind of renders, cinematic renders. Okay, so of course from here you take them into Photoshop for post-processing. You change the lighting a bit and make the renders much clearer and so on. Yeah, so I am just going to hit render. Just going to hit render, and yeah, so just wait for Eevee to do its thing. Remember that our samples are 512 and we're using a resolution of about 3000 pixels by 3500 pixels, so it should take maybe like almost close to a minute or so for it to complete the whole entire render. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's how I set up my lighting with Eevee. It's not that complicated. It's all about knowing how light interacts with the objects in the scene, and you will be able to get some cool renders in no time. Yeah, you won't really need to have a very powerful PC to have renders and like cycles. Yeah. All right. So I think our render is done. Yeah. Yeah. So this is our render. This is our render. So you can just take it to Photoshop, change lighting, add some color to it. Yeah. Otherwise, we have got a cool render. This is a cool render. It's cool, as you can see. It's a very nice green render. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. See you on the next one.